Recap in minutes. In today's video, we will be enjoying a war drama film, entitled Apocalypse Now. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The movie begins in South Vietnam, Saigon, late 1969. Captain Benjamin Willard of the United States Army, a veteran of special operations, is back in Saigon for another duty assignment during the Vietnam War, despite the fact that he is unable to reintegrate into American culture and that his marriage has ended. He becomes drunk, smokes cigarettes non-stop, and hallucinates in his room, eventually breaking a giant mirror and harming himself. To dull the discomfort, he keeps up the drinking. Two military officers show up at Willard's flat in Saigon one day. The officers ask about Willard's whereabouts and condition and find his apartment in chaos. One of the officers verifies his identification and gives him instructions to go to Nha Trang to meet with ComSec intelligence. As Willard was too worn out to do it himself, the officers took care of it. After giving him a thorough scrub down, the officers transported him to an officer's trailer, where he met with Lieutenant General Corman and Colonel Lucas to explain his top-secret mission to follow the Nung River far into the forest. Colonel Lucas, throughout the period of a pleasant meal, orders his men to track down the Renegade Special Forces commander, Walter Kurtz, and terminate him and his whole command with extreme prejudice. Kurtz has allegedly gone wild and is now in charge of his own Montagnard forces in otherwise neutral Cambodia. They play a record of Kurtz's voice that was captured by Army intelligence. In the recording, Kurtz rambles about the devastation caused by the war and a snail that is crawling on the tip of a straight razor. The next day, after being picked up by helicopter, Willard joins a Navy PBR at Cam Ranh Bay, whose crew includes Chief Phillips, Lance, Chef, and Mr. Clean. Willard explains that the majority of the team consists of young soldiers. Clean is only 17 and is from the South Bronx, while Lance is a famous surfer from California and Chef is a chef from New Orleans. Chief Phillips, an experienced sailor, reveals that he had brought another special operations soldier into the jungles of Vietnam on a similar mission and that the man afterward committed himself. As they make their way to the mouth of the Nung River via patrol boat, Willard reveals that he became curious about Kurtz after hearing his voice. After that, they cross paths with a reckless lieutenant colonel named Bill Kilgore, who is the commander of an attack helicopter squadron known as the infamous 1st of the 9th Air Cavalry. Bill Kilgore at first makes fun of them when they meet up with Willard's Navy team. Kilgore and Lance become friends due to their shared passion for surfing, and Kilgore decides to accompany them across the Viet Cong-infested coastal mouth of the Nung River so that they can take advantage of the excellent surfing conditions there. Kilgore launches a brutal helicopter attack toward the Viet Cong village the following morning. In the midst of enemy artillery fire, Kilgore gives the order to seize the beach and surf in it while a song plays over the helicopter loudspeakers as they bomb the civilians with napalm. Willard takes his soldiers to the patrol boat, which is brought via helicopter, and begins the trek upriver while Kilgore is busy thinking about an earlier strike. Willard continues to go over the Kurtz report while on the long travel that makes up most of the story. While doing so, he discovers that Kurtz is a model officer and may have gone on to become a general. Kurtz, then 38 years old, returned from a duty assignment in South Vietnam in 1964 and promptly turned down the promotion, applied for airborne training several times, and even submitted a report to his superiors that was later deemed secret. Kurtz had also filed a classified war report to his superiors. Willard learns that in 1966 Kurtz participated in another combat mission in South Vietnam as a member of the Special Forces. During this journey, his fighting skills gained success over the enemy Viet Cong and North Vietnamese. Nevertheless, these methods also drew criticism from his superior officers. Late in the summer of 1968, Kurtz's combat patrol officers began to be ambushed on a regular basis. This pattern continued until November 1968, when Kurtz gave the order for his men to carry out the summary execution of 4 high-ranking officials of the South Vietnamese intelligence service whom he suspected of being double agents for the Viet Cong. Kurtz was charged with murder by the United States Army despite the fact that it was later established that the 4 Vietnamese who were executed were, in fact, double agents. It was indeed as a result that Kurtz took matters into his own hands rather than going through the appropriate channels, which led to Kurtz and his Special Forces or South Vietnamese Army fleeing into Cambodia. Meanwhile, Willard walks with Chef into the woods one evening in order to pick mangoes, and while they are there, they come across a tiger. However, they are both able to return to the boat in one piece and go on. Willard sees the incident with the tiger and Chef's dangerously close brush with hysteria as a stern reminder of the rule that one must never leave the boat. An evening or two later, the crew attends a USO show at a supply depot that features Playboy Playmates. The show goes sideways when the soldiers attempt to attack the Playmates, which brings an abrupt end to the rest and recuperation leave period. After some time passes, the team decides to search a civilian sampan for weapons. However, the intoxicated Mr. Clean gets terrified and starts the fire, which causes Lance to also open fire on the defenseless Vietnamese family. Chef discovers a puppy hidden among the provisions that are on the boat. The chef is treated cruelly by Lance, who then takes possession of the animal and maintains it as a pet. Willard takes a cold-blooded shot at the young woman that Chef discovers to be still alive in order to avoid any future setbacks to his goal. Willard believes that he is in the leadership of the patrol boat from this point on, but Chief continues to prioritize other goals over Willard's secret mission, which causes tension between the two of them. After another night has passed, the crew finally reaches the chaos that is the Du Lung Bridge while it is being attacked. Willard finds out via a courier that Captain Colby, the missing commanding officer, was part of an earlier attempt to kill Kurtz. Also, Willard sees the other side of the war, which consists of the men who are stoned and burned out from fighting a losing battle to keep the bridge open. The bridge is once again devastated by enemy shellfire just as the patrol boat crew is getting ready to leave. Both Lance and Chef are continually showing signs of being influenced by the presence of narcotics. In particular, Lance smears camouflage paint all over his face and becomes more reclusive as a result. The following day, the boat takes fire from an unknown enemy hiding in the trees, which results in the death of Mr. Clean and further inflames Chief's anger for Willard. Following another day or two had passed, the patrol boat was assaulted once more, this time by Montagnard warriors as they cross the border into Cambodia. The patrol boat begins firing on the Montagnard warriors despite Willard's protests that the arrows that were fired at them were not dangerous. Willard is about to be saved until Chief gets pierced by a spear and tries to kill him by pulling him onto the spearhead before he passes out. Afterward, Willard opens up to the two remaining members of the crew, Chef and Lance, about the mission, and they grudgingly agree to proceed upriver, where they find the banks littered with the bodies of people who have been tortured. Willard finally makes it to Kurtz's outpost, where he takes Lance with him to the village. He leaves Chef behind with the orders to call in an airstrike on the village if he and Willard do not return. When the soldiers arrived at the camp, they were greeted by an American freelance photographer who gushed shamelessly about Kurtz's brilliance. Willard and Lance come across Colby, who appears to be delirious, as they walk into the temple that serves as Kurtz's living quarters. In addition, they find a number of rotting corpses and severed bodies strewn about the temple. Willard is bound and taken before Kurtz in the low-light temple, where the latter mocks him for being an errand boy. In the meantime, Chef is getting ready to call in the airstrike when he is taken hostage. Later on, when Willard is locked up, Kurtz places the human head of Chef in his lap, and Willard screams helplessly. Not long after, Willard is eventually released and given the opportunity to roam freely across the compound. Going back to the time when the strange Kurtz gives him a lecture on his beliefs regarding war, humanity, and civilization, all the while praising the ruthlessness and commitment of the Viet Cong. When Kurtz was leading a trip to immunize the children of a small village against polio a number of years before, he had finally reached his breaking point. Soon after finishing that assignment, Kurtz's squad was called back by one of the locals, and when they arrived, he discovered that the Viet Cong had reached and amputated the arms of every child who had been injected with the vaccine. The terrible determination of the Viet Cong and the will they showed to obstruct the attempts of Kurtz's squad to rescue the villagers is something that Kurtz can't help but admire in a sick way. Kurtz was under the impression that he could have won the war on his own if he had been in charge of a large number of soldiers who were willing to go to whatever extent needed. Near the end of the time they spend together, Kurtz brings up his son and requests that Willard share with his son all of the information he knows about him in case Kurtz passes away. During that night, when the other villagers are performing a ritual slaughter of a water buffalo, Willard sneaks into Kurtz's room as he is recording something on tape and attacks him with a machete. Kurtz, who is lying on the ground and has been mortally wounded, mutters a few final words before passing away. Willard comes upon a significant printed work of Kurtz's writings, and he takes it with him when he leaves. As Willard leaves Kurtz's chamber and makes his way down the stairs, he lets go of his weapon. Willard is given permission by the other villagers to walk the nearly unconscious Lance over to the boat by taking him by hand and leading him there. The movie ends when Lance and Willard escape in the PBR and head downstream in search of help and rescue while the army makes attempts to communicate with them via shortwave radio. Willard stops the radio and walks away. Willard hears the final words that Kurtz spoke to him play over and over in his head as he navigates the boat through the pitch black of the night jungle and the pouring rain. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this and help the channel grow.